We still have a minute or so, so hopefully Larry can join us. Kimberly, nice to see you. Welcome. Right.
Hello.
Paul? Hello, Paul. Welcome.
Hello, Supervisor Anderson. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Julie, are we cranked up and we're online? Okay, thank you. I have 4:46. I'm going to call a meeting to order. And if Larry Bjork joins us later, we will welcome him in. Let the records show that the supervisors are here other than Larry Bjork and who our visitors are. And we will hear from them later during our agenda. Okay, you saw the minutes from, we did not have a meeting, remember, in December. There was really no need, and so I canceled it. And we did have a meeting in November. If you've had a chance to go back and look at those minutes, are there any corrections or additions or any comments? Or I would welcome a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
Tom moved
Jim seconds.
and Jim Zahn seconds. Thank you. Tom Quinn moved to approve and Jim Zahns. Any other discussion or questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Tonight we have a request for a public comment input, and I'm going to call on him at this time. I don't see him on my screen, but Julie informs me that he wants to talk.
He has a written statement that was provided prior to the meeting that I'm going to read.
Oh, all right. We will. I got that statement too, Julie. So Terry Nichols has a statement, and I will ask Julie, our county clerk, to read that to us.
It's dated Wednesday, January 6, 2021. It says, "Dear committee members, before COVID, I tried to attend all the CRNT committee meetings. My interest is robust broadband service to all residents of Dunn County. I recently revisited the county's Resolution 58, passed by the Board of Supervisors back in 2016, related to the county's commitment to broadband. This resolution can be interpreted in many ways. Just to say the county supports or is stating a leadership role as it relates to broadband is not enough in my opinion. The county needs to understand that in a leadership role, there may be costs involved. Most recently, I used the phrase at the township level, there is no such thing as a free lunch. This was my answer when Dunn County dissolved the waste management and recycling program and Colfax became a RU. I can use the same phrase referring to Dunn County's leadership role in obtaining broadband grants from the state broadband office. Local level monies in support of a broadband project is one of the factors the state broadband office takes into consideration. A good example is that the town of Colfax supplied $5,000 towards the Blue Mertel broadband project, which is not a huge amount in overall cost of the project, but it shows a commitment. The town of Colfax is also telecommuter forward certified. This was a plus as well. As I drove to Colfax tonight, I witnessed Midwest Fiber Solutions in their mobile trailer terminating fiber cable for the Blue Mertel project. Good feeling, project on track. I expect good things to happen with Dunn County and broadband expansion in the new year. It all starts with the leadership of Dunn County and defining what the leadership role entails. Best regards, Terry Nichols, town of Colfax."
Thank you, Julie. I will be referring later on an update with broadband later during my announcements. I see that Kimberly from the chamber is on. We do not have you on schedule, Kimberly, but we will be talking about some things I think that's of great interest to you. And I will invite you right now if you have any comments to make or updates or announcements. Kimberly Stickford from the Menominee Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, Hi, yeah, thanks for letting me do a quick update. I'm not sure if you guys know or not, but the chamber office did move locations this past week. So we are up more in North Menominee now in the same building as where Jackie Hunt is. We kind of have an office suite in there. So we did move from downtown up there. And then also the new destination guide that I was talking about a couple months ago is going to go to print on Friday. And I was able to incorporate a lot more of Dunn County within that guide. So more things to do outside of the Menominee area as well. So it kind of incorporates both places. Because sometimes you have people coming in and asking for a Dunn County guide and a Menominee guide, but I was able to try to combine them as much as possible to kind of talk about Dunn County as well. So I'm happy with how it all worked out and still try to keep it not a super huge, large book, but also to talk about all the main points of Dunn County and Menominee.
Kimberly, thank you, and good wishes on your new location. And we do look forward to working with you in the future. Appreciate you being on here for that announcement. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
We're going to move on right now. You notice that our Bob Bassani's on, but he's going to call on later. So we're going to move right into our Extension Director's report. And I'm always happy to welcome Catherine Emanuel here. So Catherine, we will call on you now.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Good to see you all, and thanks, Margaret, as well, for coming to the meeting this evening. I know that we'll look forward to hearing what you have to share. I don't have any major updates. We had pretty quiet December, just kind of wrapping things up. As you see in our monthly highlights, the educators are really engaged and active on the local level, doing programming, working with, continuing to offer programming virtually. So I know that you all can read very well, so I don't want to highlight all of that, but just thinking about some of the trainings that's going on. I know Katie and Michelle helped to co-host an ag lenders virtual conference last Thursday, a very long conference that's often held in person. And I think that they ended up having 25 more attendees than they normally do in person. So, as much as the virtual world kind of scares us off sometimes, people are being responsive to it. It was about an 8-hour training with multiple workshops that people could attend. So I envision that people might have maybe been a little picky about which ones they want to go to, but that's nice because it offers that flexibility from having to be in person for something that, we'll evaluate to see if that's the type of format that will be used going forward. Let's see, what are a couple other highlights I wanted to talk about? I know Jim Dunning is, excuse me, not Jim Dunning, Jim Anderson may be sharing an update about Alice in Dairyland.
Right.
And so I'll let him share about that. But Katie and Jim have been working together quite a bit on that. And then I think the last thing I just share is that we have our format that we use for our monthly highlights is we're still working on our pilot with the state. I think we should have that wrapped up hopefully by first quarter of 2021. And essentially what it will be doing is taking a statewide reporting system that educators plug their data into and kind of fusing these reports together so they can just make one report. I know it seems like common sense, and this is the kind of stuff that people go, oh, government, they make it so complicated. It does have a logic for it of why the reporting in different houses matter. And there is a lot of work being done just to try to get it efficient. The cool thing is that this model that Dunn is using is really part of a big project for the entire state. So there's, I think, 4 other counties that are piloting this out. And so once we're ready for it to go live and it makes sense to distribute it and share that, you'll see it. It's going to look similar in the format, the branding, the Bucky Badger red, you'll see all of that. But you will see a little bit more of a change of how it's organized and orientated. We will still make sure that we are attaching that financial update that the committee is now getting used to seeing every month. So you'll still receive that. Let's see, I think, the other thing I wanted to share is just an update I learned today about the community development position. I have been in conversation still with the Institute. There still is support for the position. Right now, the state has not given the green light for this round, which would have been in January, to start a hiring thaw, so opposite of the freeze. So they'll have a conversation again in March or April, and I will know more there. So I'm sorry it's not better news, but we have to wait. And so if you have any questions or feedback in the meantime, I'm happy to hear it. And I will definitely keep you posted as I know more about that position.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. I'm sure all of you know, maybe Bob, Catherine is the director of 3 counties, Chippewa County, Dunn County, and Eau Claire County, and resides in Eau Claire. Also on Eau Claire City Council, which keeps you busy then too. Keep reading about that, Catherine. Thank you very much. And we look forward to staying in touch, and we're continuing working with you. And then Catherine mentioned the monthly reports that our extension agents write. And you all get that, and I hope all of you read them. That really does give a very complete accounting of every of the things they're doing here in Dunn County. And it's very impressive. So please pass that back to your staff, Catherine.
Thank you so much. I forgot one other item I wanted to highlight. Our I'm at a loss of my words today. Our human development and relationships educator, Stephanie Hintz, is working with Health Done Right quite a bit. And I know she shared that she's on a committee with Chair Bartlett. And so you can see that they are working together really on a countywide wellness initiative just to see, how are you doing? You know, I mean, we're so used to, in our vernacular language, you walk past somebody, hi, how you doing? Fine. And you keep walking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks who are not doing fine, or there's different levels of fine. And so this work is really using evidence-based information to help ascertain how are people doing in our community, in the workforce, and then working together as a team. So Extension's really pleased to be a partner with that and just responding to COVID. And Dave, I know that Stephanie enjoys getting a chance to work with you. So thanks for your work on that too.
Yeah, thank you for that additional announcement, Catherine. I agree. All right. No questions of Catherine. We're going to move. Oh, Dave. Dave has a comment. Dave Bartlett, our county board chair. Dave.
Yes, remind me, when Joseph left, how long has he been gone? I see the budget sheet we got, the hours were, you know, we didn't use up the full budget, and I assume that's from Joseph's, but how long was he gone?
His last day in the office was end of March 2020. I think maybe, I mean, I can get you an exact date if that's helpful,
Yeah,
but
that's close enough.
March 26th or so. And then he had about a month of vacation. So he was still on payroll through the end of April.
Okay.
And then it would be end of April through end of December that position was vacant, and the state did not charge during that time period.
Right, and that position is shared by 4 counties or 3 counties?
3 counties, yep. So Chippewa and Eau Claire.
So we'd pay a third. I just thought it would be a little bit more money that wasn't used than $3,000.
I can.
I know that we don't pay the full, you know, we only pay a small percentage of the actual salary also. I realize that. So I was just curious on that. When I looked at that, I expected it to be a little bigger, I guess, of a savings over the last year.
Yeah, great question. I will definitely follow up and get that. I'll get that information. Would it be helpful to get it back to you before the next committee meeting, or is the next committee meeting sufficient? Doesn't make a difference to me, whatever your pleasure is.
Probably a little sooner than the next committee meeting, if I could.
Yeah. Maybe what I could do, and County Manager Miller is here, so if this is not okay with the county, but I could send an email update out, and then I think just as long as the committee members aren't dialoguing via email, I think that should be
Right.
just fine.
Yeah, you could just send the information out. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to do that. Great question. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, good question, Dave. Remember, he was working in 3 counties, and so it would be less. And our next oh, I'm sorry, Ann, you have a question.
Was wondering, would it be part of the contractual consulting services? Would that be where the hours would come out of for that position? Just a thought.
Yeah, I will go back and look. I don't have the financial kind of breakdown in front of me, but we'll probably have an answer for you, I'd say by Wednesday, if not Tuesday. Michelle is very quick, so we'll definitely get that clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Any other questions? Yeah, we'll get to the bottom and resolve that for you. Well, if there aren't any further questions, we'll move on to our next extension educator. Now, Margaret works in 4 counties. And as our University Wisconsin Extension Specialist in Horticulture. And Margaret Murphy, we welcome you here. We haven't heard from you for a while, so let's hear from you.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to meet with you tonight. And actually, I wasn't sure whether you had heard this or not, but I no longer serve Polk County as of 2021. The Polk County Board did decide to defund the Hort position. And so I will be working at 75% time, just serving Area 6. So I just wanted to kind of run through a few highlights of what I am working on right now. One thing we're working on is an upcoming virtual garden seminar. We have transitioned several in-person annual garden seminars to one grand virtual event that will begin mid-February. And we have 4 speakers lined up to present. And based on questions we got through 2020, we have a nice variety of topics that speakers will be addressing to help people who have just gotten into gardening, and a lot of questions on trees and things like that. So we're going to have a speaker who talks about soil preparation for planting vegetables, which a lot of people were first-time vegetable growers this year. And we have a speaker who's going to talk about creating private space. So for people hanging out in their backyard, how you can use plantings to kind of give yourself some privacy. We also have a speaker talking on planting trees and shrubs, how to properly plant trees and shrubs and how to take care of them. And then also speakers on searching for wildflowers in Wisconsin as well as Minnesota. And that we thought would be a good topic because this year we got a lot of questions from people who were out in their backyard wondering what plant they were looking at. So a lot of plant ID questions and wondering if they were natives or invasives and had to be dealt with. So I'm very thrilled with the topics we'll be covering with this virtual garden seminar. Another thing I'm working on is, I don't know if you remember back in the fall, myself along with Diana Elfuth, who is the horticulture educator in Area 5, which is, or she covers Pierce and St. Croix counties. But we offered a fall prep course for individuals who are interested in becoming a Master Gardener volunteer, and we completed that. It was an 8-week virtual course. We completed it at the end of November. And due to changes that we have going on with how one becomes a Master Gardener volunteer, now folks who are interested in serving as a Master Gardener volunteer will need to go through a newly required onboarding class. And about half the folks who were enrolled in our fall prep class, so about 10 people or so, 10 or 12 people, have expressed interest in going on to becoming a Master Gardener just from the Area 6 counties. So now that we can roll out, or we're ready to roll out this new onboarding class, I will be reaching out to those individuals. And I'm going to see who actually is interested in becoming a Master Gardener volunteer. Then I will meet with them via Zoom so I can give them a brief orientation on what's next and what are some of the volunteer opportunities they can get involved in our area, and to answer questions, because the onboarding class the fee is $100 and it's non-refundable. So I really want individuals to know what to expect and to be sure that it's the right next step for them. And then I'll get them started on that class. From the pilot that we've done, the class looks to take about 10 to 15 hours to complete, and they'll have to the end of March to get that done. And once the individuals complete that, then I'm going to get them going with our mentorship program. This is a new program we're starting this year to provide master gardeners who are established old timers to work with new volunteers. And this is especially important with so much of our work now having been and still going to be for a while anyway, virtual. So we want them to get connected and to know there are things they can still do to reach out and work with our communities. So I'm working on a training for all the Master Gardener volunteers who have expressed interest in being a mentor for 2021. I'm excited that we have volunteers from all 3 counties, Dunn, Eau Claire, and Chippewa, who have expressed interest, and they come with a wide range of expertise. And so I'm kind of leaning toward a team approach where a new volunteer will have a mentor they're assigned to, but we're going to take a team approach, hopefully, so that they can take advantage of all the different interests and skills that we have in the program and expertise to help them get assimilated into the program. And I also continue to help just in general with the Master Gardeners so that they continue to work on their volunteer projects, especially if we're going to remain in a no contact kind of situation for a while, which I anticipate we probably will, at least for the beginning of the gardening season. We'll probably allow Master Gardeners to continue to go out and work, but not with the public, unfortunately. We'll have to keep it no contact. Hopefully that will be able to change in time. So this year, we did allow Master Gardeners to go out and continue many of their projects. And the ones that they were able to really continue with are ones that lots of projects we have helped maintain community green space for the public to use, which was very important this year as more and more people were getting out to take walks and go bike riding and things. They also have projects that manage natural areas by planting natives and also by removing invasives. We do a lot with removing buckthorn and garlic mustard. We also have a demonstration garden on a rain garden, how that works by capturing rainwater and holding it long enough for the soil to reabsorb it so it doesn't head down our streets and sidewalks and parking lots as runoff. And so that's a project we can continue with. And also our Dunn County Jail Garden project continued. And that's where volunteers grow produce to donate to Stepping Stones. This year they had a little late start because we were still kind of working out the details of how you can go out and work in your gardens this summer safely. But they were still, so they only utilized about half the space of their jail garden, and they didn't have the help of inmates this year, but they still were able to donate over 2,200 pounds of fresh produce to Stepping Stones. So I was very proud of them for that. Other things, I'm finishing up with some 2020 data, looking over our horticulture inquiries that we received. I just want to kind of peg the top topics people were interested in so we can focus on those and make sure people are getting the support they need in horticulture diagnostics as well as their yard and garden work. And I've already been receiving questions. I've never really have received horticulture questions so early in the season. January really isn't a time people are thinking garden, but I've got them coming in. People are already thinking about soil testing and they're looking for guidance on plant choices, especially for areas that they found were hard to keep planted, especially with turf and things like that. So already kind of reaching out to people who are prepping for their spring, getting back out to the backyard. So I'm anticipating another very busy year as people will probably be staying close to home again. But that's some of the highlights that we're working on through the winter months. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Margaret, very impressive report. And I thought I was pretty well aware of all you're doing. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of Margaret. Anybody have any questions? Well, if not, to you, Margaret, and to you, Catherine, from our extension people, thank you very much. I don't know what happened to my screen here. There, I'm back on again. Uh, I got to get back on here. There, thank you. I think they were cutting me out here. Okay, if not, Margaret, and to Catherine from our UW-Madison Extension specialists and educators, we thank you very much, and we appreciate your report. Moving on. I placed here on 5A, Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. And when we put that together with Julie and I wasn't sure of the status of our new executive director of economic Dunn County EDC, Bob Bassani, because Bob unfortunately came down with that virus. And but I see he's here today, and we don't
Alive and well, Jim.
we don't expect a report from you, but I wanted people to see you and know you're well and up at them. And I'll give you a few minutes, Bob, if you care to at least update the folks a little bit.
Sure, thanks, Jim. I will say, yeah, I did come down with the COVID. My whole family came down with COVID. We all tested positive for COVID, and it's funny how that virus works. There are some members of my family, a few who got over it pretty quick. There were a few members that didn't show any symptoms at all. My grandkids never showed any symptoms, and I was really pleased for that. I was the one who got hit the hardest, and I was a bit embarrassed by that. I don't know why, but I'll acknowledge that having gone through that COVID, I could see where people with compromised physical conditions might have a real rough time. But anyway, the bottom line is that I'm not going to say I'm over it, but I'm getting there. And I'm really pleased that, Jim, you gave me an opportunity to be part of this again. Yet all I want to say is that what I'm trying to do is to integrate into the Dunn County Economic Development system administratively and otherwise as well as I can. The COVID virus, aside from my having it, has slowed me down in other areas too, in terms of being able to get information from people or even meeting with them. But nonetheless, we're moving forward with it. This is just another avenue for me to connect with people who are important and will be important to Dunn County Economic Development. So I really appreciate that, Jim. I'm working on some things to try to carry on some of the Dunn County Economic Development Corporation initiatives. One of them, of course, is broadband. And curiously enough, in the last year, I've been involved in other projects. I've probably put together at least a half a dozen pro forma financials for various cable laying, dark cable and fiber cable laying projects. So I have some knowledge that I'm hoping maybe at some point I can use in terms of trying to figure out how, in fact, to best promote broadband in Dunn County. And so I'm connecting with various groups that have been involved in this and trying to catch up with the dynamics of what's transpired so far. So I'm doing that. I'm doing other things that related to Dunn County Economic Development. But I'm going to do my absolute best to integrate into what's going on and all the initiatives that are out there, and to see what we can do to take Dunn County Economic Development to the level that I think we need to take it in order to best serve the county. So I mean, I'm certainly open to anybody's comments or questions by any means, but that's really about all I have, Jim, right now.
Well, Bob, I will thank you. I will kind of brief people a little bit following what you said. You remember that we had Stacy Wigfield, who was the interim director from April through December 31st, was when I was the president of Dunn County EDC. Now, since then, we've had an election, and Gary Steen, who is also on our county board and is the vice chair, is the new president. And he, along with the committee, went out and interviewed, and they hired Bob Bassani. And we couldn't be happier. And Bob started on Monday so he's new and working from home and doing the job there without any other assistance. So he really has his work cut out for him. But Bob, we are just delighted. We look forward to, after you're 100% recovered and had a little time on the job, to have you back and to update us a little bit about what you're doing. So Bob, get well first. And we know you're recovering. I've been in touch with Bob a great deal these last few months, working together, moving stuff and everything else. And Bob, we're very pleased that you've joined.
Well, thanks, Jim. I'm pleased too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I'm glad you had a chance to join us. We'll be hearing from you more in the future. I did write under 5B. We have a Dunn County budget allocation for economic development, $10,000 in budget. No action here today. All I wanted to do is to remind you to be thinking about what you think this committee might recommend in the future of how we can use that for economic development or tourism or whatever. It doesn't have to be, rural tourism is still a part of economic development. So I'm asking all of you committee members to be giving us some thought. And in the future, we will be discussing that and then making a recommendation to go on further to the executive and the county board. Paul has his hand up. Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Anderson. Food for thought as the committee members do consider how that $10,000 might be utilized for economic development. Of course, it does represent commitment on the county board's part to continue to invest in economic development. We had discussed one idea of supplementing the economic development activities through Cedar Corps. That had some positive response, some negative. But another idea that we had talked about briefly that I wanted to remind people of relates specifically to rural tourism and recreation, and that is building a rural tourism and recreation inventory that is going around the county and identifying every place and every opportunity there is for tourism and recreation in the rural portions of the county. Ski trails, ATV trails, snowmobile trails, hike bike trails, where our county parks are, where there's opportunities for boating, for swimming. What are the attractive natural features that we can bring people to? Hoffman Hills, places like that, just throughout the county of obviously the Devil's Punch Bowl, but building an inventory and then linking it also on as part of that inventory, rural tourism businesses that are engaged in that kind of trying to attract people out into unincorporated Dunn County, even our shooting ranges. The idea would be to build an inventory that would identify by place. It would have directions, links to directions, so if people want to find the place. And if there is in fact a phone number or a website, it would list that as well. That inventory could then be displayed on the county's website. It could be shared with the Chamber of Commerce in the various municipalities. And we could also build on what those chambers have done. That I anticipate is something that could be done perhaps by a Stout student, even for well under the $10,000 allocation. And yet it's something that would be very useful. There is a link right now on Dunn County's website for tourism, but it doesn't have the kind of comprehensive nature when it comes to the rural tourism opportunities we have that I'm talking about. So I think that that's one thing you may want to give some thought to. Another is to a rural business inventory. That is specifically the businesses that operate not only to attract rural tourism, but simply operate out in the rural areas of the county. Where are those businesses located? What do they do? Again, their contact information, including links to their web pages, would be another useful tool in terms of economic development. Right now, when visitors or other businesses even consider locating in Dunn County, they want to know what amenities we have. They want to know what opportunities we have. They want to know what chances there are for synergy with what they do. they want to know if there's going to be amenities for their prospective employees if they were to move out here. So it is a very useful economic development tool. It's one that it exists in pieces in various places, including what was being referred to, Kimberly was referring to by the Menominee Chambers, but there's no place that has it comprehensively for all of Dunn County. So that's food for thought in terms of how some, if not all, of that 10,000 might be applied.
Yes, thank you, Paul, for all those great comments. I would add that Jim Zahns on our committee here has been very interested in doing more with that. So has Dunn County EDC. So Bob Bassani, that's something, and then working with you, Kimberly, with the chamber. So today, thank you, Chairman, County Manager Miller, for giving us all those good suggestions to think about. And if you'll all do a great deal of thinking about that, because I would hope that we can take some action on that, if not at our next meeting, certainly early in the year, so that we can start doing something with that yet this year. So any questions of County Manager Miller or anybody else about this? If not, we're going to move on, but I appreciate Paul very much of giving us those good ideas, and I will be expecting all of the input from all of you, and as well as from you, Kimberly, and Bob Bassani from your organizations, and as we move ahead on this. So thank you very much. Well, our next item on the agenda is broadband, and I put that on here after you've heard about the comments from Bob Bassani, and last year as you know, Dunn County EDC had wrote many letters this past year in support to the those applying Bloomer telephone telegraph, 24/7 West Wisconsin Telecom, Mosaic up in Dave Bartlett's area, and wrote letters to support so that they could get a big grant. Hopefully, and most of these were in a state situation. And the most recent was with 4 letters that we wrote for West Wisconsin Telecom here in Menominee. And I just talked to Jim Kuslich on that this morning, and to get an update. And those grants for 4 of them were all had to be in place and everything by December 1st. And they got all of them in there, and we had strong letters of support. And because, as you know, Dunn County is not only broadband forward certified, telecommuter forward certified, those are all things that are very helpful for these those providers to be able to get a grant. So when Jim and I talked this morning, Jim said, well, we have until Thursday of this week for anybody to object to the grants. And thus far, nobody has objected. And of course, I don't know why anybody would. And then if nobody objects, then we can expect the awards of these grants sometime toward the end of March. And at that particular time, they would start construction immediately this summer. And their grants are in the township of Menominee, townships of Red Cedar, townships of Weston. Some are expanding broadband where they are right now up to 240 more patrons. And that's huge. Right now, we're all hearing complaints, and I've gotten lots of them. Why don't we have broadband out here near? All of a sudden, they realized with school closing and with health issues and everything, they didn't have adequate broadband speed. And so now it's like, why haven't we done something? Well, we've been trying to, and we will continue to. And so with the help of Bob Bassani writing letters of support from Dunn County EDC in the future, with the help of all of you in the area, this is rural Dunn County now, economic development. And I just wanted to update you on what's going on there with just them. And then talking to Bloomer Telephone, and they did, do a lot in the Colfax area. And they're expanding all the way down to Elk Mound. And that's the eastern part of all of Dunn County. And then up in Dave Bartlett's area, Mosaic came down into town of Sheridan, and Dave didn't go over to Wilson too, and all the way almost over to Sand Creek, or they didn't go into New Haven, did they, Dave? You're muted. Dave, you're muted.
They're doing the Ridgeland Exchange, so that's partly into New Haven also, I believe. Southern part maybe, a little bit anyway. They have done the Dallas Exchange, and so the Ridgeland Exchange was mostly Wilson, Sheridan, and then of course into Barron County around Ridgeland.
Right.
Little bit in New Haven. I think they've done the Dallas Exchange. I don't know when they're slated to do the Sand Creek Exchange or the Prairie Farm Exchange. Prairie Farm is next year, I think, but they haven't done all of the Ridgeland Exchange, so they've got to clean that up next year.
So Dave, those are grants that they haven't completed yet, not new grants, right?
Right. Yeah, I believe it's money that they've got to, that they're building on right now.
Who had a question? Tom or somebody else? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt anybody. These providers, all we're doing here is trying to encourage them to apply for a grant, because they can't afford to do it without grants from the state. Once in a while, federal, most of it's state. And so what we're trying to do is to show all the support we can by writing a nice letter of support. And I sent some of those letters to Dave Bartlett so he could see what they looked like when Eric Turner started this back when he was doing it and did a fine job with it. And then, of course, it followed up last year. Stacy wrote, I think, quite a few letters, both to Bloomer and to Telcom and Mosaic. And we hope that that helps. And we're willing to do it. And anybody that we can get to apply for grants so we can get broadband throughout as much of Dunn County as we can. Any questions on where we're at on broadband right now, or anybody have any other comments right now?
Well, if I could, Jim, can I ask a question in regard to, in particular to Dave, the extension and the application, the construction of services to whether it be Ridgeland or other areas in the county. Do you know exactly what that's for specifically?
Well, they're bringing fiber right into each house.
They're going to bring fiber. Okay.
Right.
So they're burying fiber optic cable.
And it goes, and they're bringing it right into the resident. So there's no cost to the resident. Even, if they go down the road and there's a resident that wasn't a customer of theirs, they're taking it right into that home too. So
Okay.
they're hoping to gain more customers by it. Well, that's the object, I guess. They're a private company. They want to make money. I should mention, Jim, you've mentioned a couple of times that Dunn County Electric or Dunn County Economic Development sent out letters. So the county did also. I know Bob got letters and sent letters out that were signed by, that I signed, and that we sent letters out as the county also to when anybody asked.
Yes, and that is good for everybody to know. And the other thing we did was contacted our legislators. And what we did was make sure that we contact our legislators in this area that represent and ask them to send a letter of support. And we're happy to tell you that they were great. They came through letters when it was in Bloomer. Sommerfeld wrote a nice letter when it was up in all the different areas. We could get our legislators, assemblymen and state senators to write a letter of support for us. So we're all in this working on it together, and that's the way we'll get the job done. It's a long haul yet because it's expensive, $25,000 to $35,000 per mile to put this fiber in. I know when I went up to north of Colfax to watch Bloomer Telephone installing some of the fiber this summer, and looking where even a good going was, and they were going at about 1 mile per hour, installing this huge fiber, and then another cable. It's fascinating, and of course, it's going to take a long time to get all of Dunn County covered, but we got to start and keep it going. So Dave, thank you. And Bob, any other question? Tom Quinn. You're muted, Tom.
Sorry. You mentioned that these are state grants primarily that we've gotten so far, but I noticed that there's a federal broadband program that just released grant notifications in December. And I think it was almost 60 million to Wisconsin, but none in our area that I could see. Do you have any idea whether, and there's likely to be more federal funds too, it sounds like. So I'm wondering whether you have any idea whether the local companies are pursuing those or not.
Well, Tom, I can only tell you, and I'm not as knowledgeable about federal as I'm state, but when I talk to the providers, and I have talked to many of them, they seem to think it's right up until now to get easier from the state, but they're applying for the federal as well. And so they'll take whatever they can get, and we will too. And I don't know anybody in our area right now that's gotten a federal. And if I stand corrected if I'm wrong. But Dave, thank you.
I think these grants went to.
Yeah, well, if I find anything different, I'll let you know. Meanwhile, we're gonna stay on top of this broadband, and Bob, we appreciate you continuing to have that interest for us here in Dunn County EDC. Okay, any questions from anybody on broadband at this point? It's getting to be 5:30 with just one announcement that I have left.
Ann Vogel has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ann.
I was curious, how do we keep track of like what percentage of the population we're reaching? So these 4 new grants, how much more of Dunn County are we reaching? Do we know?
I can answer that only from each provider in their area. In other words, Wisconsin, West Central Wisconsin could tell you in their area, and they tell me they're about 30%. I don't know, Dave, what in Mosaic area up where you are, what percent they've gotten, and I don't know over in the Bloomer, which covers that area of town of Grant and Colfax and down to Elk Mound, and I don't know. It's not very high, let me tell you that. And then once in a while, we do have some others that come into like Elk Mound. I think it's CenturyLink, isn't it? It doesn't matter, we're in the village, but we're talking about kind of the rural areas now. It's going up, but slowly, and it's less than, well, it's less than 40% right now. I know that.
So is there any
question?
So is there anything we can do to nudge the providers? Are there says in the county providers just never will go to? Do we have an idea?
Well, I'm going to refer that to Chairman Bartlett.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I firmly believe that there's areas in our county that no company is going to want to service because of the cost. Unless they get a grant that, you know, the cost doesn't seem to matter. But yeah, there's areas that definitely they're not going to service. They're, you know, the right here near me, just down the road is where, what is it, CenturyTel, used to be GTE, whatever, and Shebardin meet. And Shebardin won't go into somebody that has had GTE or whatever it is now, CenturyTel, I don't know. But whichever one it is, they won't go in there, and those people don't have good service. They have very poor service because they're way on the outlying area. And I don't know that that company is going to ever service them with fiber optics. Maybe they will someday, but they're way on the outskirts of their territory. And I don't know why, but a company won't go into another company's area unless the homeowner pays for the whole expense.
Right.
And as Jim said, it's expensive. And out here in the rural area, our houses may be quarter mile off the road. And so I know that I have neighbors that Shibardon or Mosaic, I guess, I'm sorry, used to be Shibardon, but Mosaic has gone right by on the road, whether it's County F or one of the town roads, and not gone into that individual's home because they're serviced by a different company. And those people wanted Shibardon to come into them, and they said they'd have to pay to get it put in there. So, you know, those people probably will never get fiber for, it's going to be quite a while, I think.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. I certainly agree with that. Shibardon is an acronym that came from Chippewa, Barron, and Dunn County. And as Dave said, now you're looking more at another company up there. You know, maybe they're going to have to go in other ways someday other than fiber in some of those more remote areas. That might be what we're finally faced with, because you can't run a fancy fiber, and they could do it maybe off of a different means of wireless to get some higher speed internet than they have now. Okay, good discussion on broadband, everybody. We're moving down on the agenda. I only have an announcement at this particular point. I need to share with you something I'm not happy to share with you, but it has to do with an update on Allison Dairyland. As you know, in May of 2019, this committee recommended that we ask extension and we apply to host the Allison Dairyland Finals in Dunn County. Now, to fast move forward, we were accepted, and Dunn County was third on the list. Walworth County, Dane County, and then Dunn County. Well, last year, Walworth County in the southern part of Wisconsin was not able to host the event because of the COVID, and so the Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection said, we will let you do it another year. They've raised $50,000. So Walworth County will be hosting Allison Dairyland this year with the Alice that's presently serving 2 years rather than 1. And that means that next year, Dane County that was scheduled on it will have it in 2022, and Dunn County is scheduled for 2023. Now, many things have changed in Dunn County since we originally applied to host Allison Dairyland. And after talking, and I appointed Katie Wantock, our agricultural agent here in Dunn County, to kind of chair up that for us. And we had a few meetings, and we're moving along, and now many things have changed. And it's our feeling right now that many people will not be in the place that started this if we were to have it in 2023. And Katie and I were quite frankly asked if Dunn County was still interested from the Department of Agriculture. And both of us have said that we are interested, but maybe we aren't ready for it. And so we withdrew our application to host the Dunn County the way it was. Now, that doesn't mean somebody else in Dunn County couldn't pick it up and apply to the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection to host Allison Dairyland sometime in the future, or that Dunn County might want to sometime in the future. You know that one of the big things that was taking place was that when Eric Turner was here, Dunn County Economic Development Corporation was a big player. and they agreed to be the fiscal agent for the Allison Dairyland. That was huge. We haven't found really any, we don't expect our new executive director to do that, working from home, no secretary. And so we can't ask our economic development coordinator to assume that responsibility. We will not ask him to. He has other big responsibilities. So because of those facts, I want all of you to know for hosting the Allison Dairyland in Dunn County in 2023. Not a decision that Katie and I wanted to make. We've informed the rest of the committee that we had that that's our decision, and that we will be notifying the Department of Agriculture later this week without objection. Any questions? Well, thank you. And I hope you understand that it doesn't mean that we aren't interested in supporting Allison Dairyland. In the future, sometimes I hope that Dunn County can, and that we will continue to support this program in every way we can. I do know that Chippewa County is very actively trying to get it. And this next summer, of course, is the Farm Technology Days in Eau Claire County. That's huge because that got canceled a year, and Katie Wantock is very involved in that, as well as all of our University of Wisconsin Extension educators and specialists. And so there's a lot going on. And right now we just felt that in fairness to all of our workers and everything else, that was the right thing to do. Okay, folks, it's 5:45. I do not have any more announcements, but I will call on anybody else that might have an announcement. I don't see any hands going up. I will say thank you to County Board Chairman Dave Bartlett for participating, and to Paul Miller, our county manager, and a special reach out to Bob Bassani. We're wishing you the best. Congratulations. And I would be very remiss if I wouldn't put a special thank you out to our county clerk, Julie Wathke, for doing everything she does all the time to line this up, and covers everything immediately. Julie, thank you very much for everything you do. It's awesome. And to Krista Vind, of course, for making this all possible. I do not have any further announcements other than I do think we will have a meeting on February 9th. So put that on your calendar right now. If there are no, anybody raise your hand. Final announcements. Okay, stay well, everybody. Thank you much for your dedication and your hard work, and we will stay in touch. Meeting's adjourned.